The moment you can be located, you can be limited. The moment you can be predicted, you can be replaced. And the moment you can be reached, you can be controlled. Let me say something that will make most people uncomfortable. If everyone knows what you're doing, you're already losing. If people can track your moves, your thoughts, your ambitions, then you're not powerful. You're exposed. Most men are taught the opposite. They're told to speak up, to announce goals, to broadcast progress, to prove success before it's even real. But power doesn't announce itself. Power observes. Power waits. Power moves when no one is watching. Here's the uncomfortable truth they don't teach you in school, business seminars, or motivational speeches. Wealth does not begin with effort. It does not begin with hustle. It does not even begin with intelligence. It begins with absence. Because the man everyone sees coming is the man everyone prepares for. Think about that for a second. Every time you reveal your plans, someone else adjusts theirs. Every time you show your hand, someone studies it. Every time you explain yourself, you give away leverage. And leverage is everything. This is where most men misunderstand Machiavellian thinking. They think it's about manipulation, about cruelty, about domination. It's not. It's about positioning. It's about surviving in a world where visibility equals vulnerability. Ask yourself this: why do the most dangerous moves in history happen quietly? Why do empires fall without warning? Why do fortunes appear to come out of nowhere? Because what you don't see is what's being built. There is a reason the truly powerful don't argue publicly, a reason they don't chase validation, a reason they don't respond to every challenge. They are not hiding because they are weak. They are hidden because they are working. The visible man seeks approval. The invisible man seeks results, and results don't need applause. Most people live like open books. They tell everyone what they're planning. They post their next move before it's even a move. They announce goals that haven't been tested by reality, and when those goals fail, which they often do, the world watches them fall, publicly. That embarrassment doesn't just hurt emotionally. It trains your mind to play smaller next time, to avoid risk, to stay predictable. And predictability is poverty in disguise. Here's a question that should bother you. Who benefits from you being visible? It's not you. It's employers who can measure you, competitors who can anticipate you, systems that need you loud, traceable, and obedient. The moment you are fully understood, you are fully usable. This is why men who talk the most about success rarely achieve it. They are feeding the world information instead of feeding their future. Machiavelli understood something brutal but timeless. Control begins where access ends. If someone can reach you at any moment, they don't respect you. If someone can interrupt you freely, they don't fear losing you. If someone knows your next move, they're already ahead of you. Power is not aggression, it's restraint. And wealth is not flash, it's silence compounded over time. In this video, we're not going to talk about money first. That's a mistake most motivational content makes. Money comes later. First, we're going to talk about disappearing without vanishing, operating without being tracked, building without being announced. Because once you understand why invisibility is strategy, you will never move the same way again. And in the next part, I'll show you the psychological trap that keeps intelligent men loud, exposed, and permanently average. Even when they have talent, the most dangerous prison is the one that applauds you. And most men are trapped inside it, willingly. Here's the psychological trap that ruins capable men before they ever get close to wealth. It's not laziness, It's not lack of discipline. It's not even fear. It's the addiction to being seen. From the moment you're young, you're rewarded for visibility. Speak up in class, praise, post achievements, likes, share struggles, attention, show ambition, validation. Your nervous system learns something subtle and destructive. Visibility feels like progress, but visibility is not progress. It's stimulation, and stimulation is cheap. This is why so many men feel busy but stay broke. They're active but not effective. They're loud but not dangerous. They're present everywhere except where it actually matters. Machiavelli would recognize this instantly. He warned that men who crave admiration become predictable, and predictability is the doorway through which control enters. Look around. Who posts the most? Who explains themselves constantly? Who announces every plan before it's proven? Those men are not powerful. They are seeking reassurance. Because here's the part no one wants to admit. When you tell people what you're going to do, you get a dopamine hit before the work is finished. Sometimes before it even begins. Your brain gets the reward early, and once the reward is collected, motivation collapses. That's why announced goals die quietly. That's why public ambitions evaporate. That's why men swear they're working on something big for years and never deliver. They spent the energy talking. Silence, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. Silence gives you no applause, no reassurance, no instant feedback. Silence forces you to rely on discipline instead of validation, and discipline is what actually compounds. This is where invisibility becomes a weapon, not a weakness. When no one knows what you're building, no one can sabotage it. When no one expects anything from you, pressure disappears. When no one tracks your progress, you are free to move slowly, quietly, precisely. Power grows best in darkness. Think about the men history remembers as sudden successes. Overnight empires, unexpected victories, out of nowhere fortunes. They weren't sudden, they were silent. The public only sees the explosion. They never see the years of pressure building underneath. Here's another brutal truth. Most people don't want you to win, not openly, but unconsciously. Your success threatens their comfort. Your progress exposes their stagnation. So when you broadcast your plans, you invite resistance disguised as advice. Are you sure that's realistic? Maybe you should slow down. Don't take such a big risk. Sounds caring, functions like sabotage. Invisibility protects you from this noise. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man avoids unnecessary exposure, not because he fears attack, but because he understands friction. Every eye on you adds friction. Every opinion slows movement. Every explanation drains energy. The invisible man conserves energy, and energy properly directed becomes leverage. This is motivational truth without sugarcoating. You cannot build something extraordinary while living an ordinary, observable life. Wealth requires asymmetry, unbalanced effort, unshared vision, unannounced sacrifice. The man who disappears is not retreating. He is repositioning. And in the next part, I'll break down the exact difference between being invisible and being irrelevant, because confusing the two is where many men vanish and never come back. There's a fatal mistake most men make when they hear "be invisible." They disappear and lose all power. That is not strategy, that is escape. Invisibility is not about shrinking. It's not about hiding from responsibility, and it's definitely not about being forgotten. Machiavellian invisibility is selective. There is a massive difference between being unseen and being unreachable. The irrelevant man is ignored because he offers nothing. The invisible man is unavailable by design. This distinction changes everything. Most men live in permanent availability. They answer instantly. They explain constantly. They justify their decisions to people who have no stake in the outcome. That behavior trains the world to treat them as replaceable. Power begins when access becomes limited. Think about this. What do people value more? Something they can reach anytime, or something they might lose? Scarcity creates gravity. Machiavelli understood that control over access is control over perception. When you're always available, you feel harmless. When you are selectively absent, people start to wonder, and wonder creates respect. Here's the paradox. The less you try to be seen, the more seriously you are taken. The man who announces every move looks insecure. The man who moves without explanation looks dangerous. That's why powerful men don't overshare. They don't clarify their intentions. They don't rush to defend themselves. They let uncertainty do the work. Uncertainty unsettles weaker minds. It forces others to react instead of you. This is not arrogance, it's efficiency. Motivational culture teaches men to be loud, visible, and inspiring. Machiavellian reality teaches men to be positioned. Visibility burns energy. Invisibility stores it, and stored energy, applied at the right moment, creates irreversible outcomes. Here's where most men fail. They confuse invisibility with isolation. They cut themselves off emotionally. They withdraw socially. They vanish without a plan. That leads to stagnation, not power. True invisibility is surgical. You are silent about your goals, not your values. You are private about your strategy, not your standards. You are unavailable to distractions, not to opportunity. The invisible man still shows up, but only where it matters. He speaks when his words shift outcomes. He appears when his presence changes leverage. He reveals himself only after the result is secured. Machiavelli wrote that timing is power's greatest ally. Reveal too early and you invite resistance. Reveal too late and you miss dominance. The invisible man reveals at the moment of victory. That's why it feels sudden to others, but for him, it was inevitable. Here's a question you should sit with. Who has access to you right now that hasn't earned it? Who gets your explanations, your emotional energy, your future plans? Every unearned audience weakens your position. Wealth does not reward openness. It rewards precision, and precision requires boundaries. In the next part, we're going to talk about something even more uncomfortable. Why being liked is one of the most expensive habits a man can have, and how it quietly drains your future. The fastest way to stay poor is to be liked by everyone. That sentence alone has destroyed more futures than bad luck ever could. Most men don't realize this, but being liked is a full-time job. It demands constant availability, constant explanation, constant emotional compliance, and compliance is the enemy of power. Machiavelli warned that rulers who chase affection lose authority, not because kindness is weak, but because dependence is. The moment you need approval, you hand over leverage. Look at how men behave when they want to be liked. They soften boundaries. They over-explain decisions. They avoid uncomfortable moves. They delay action to avoid criticism. All of this feels moral. It feels human. It feels safe. And it slowly destroys momentum. Here's the brutal motivational truth. Every great outcome requires at least one unpopular decision. You cannot build wealth without disappointing someone. You cannot grow without being misunderstood. You cannot become powerful while remaining agreeable. The man who is liked by everyone is carefully optimized to offend no one, which means he threatens No one. And men who threaten nothing are ignored by reality. Invisibility and likability are opposites. Invisibility creates distance. Distance creates mystery. Mystery creates authority. This is why powerful men don't explain their choices. They allow others to fill in the gaps with assumptions. And assumptions, when unmanaged, favor the one who stays silent. Here's what most people never see. Being liked makes you predictable. You start choosing words that land softly, paths that seem reasonable, moves that won't shock anyone. But wealth doesn't reward reasonable paths. It rewards asymmetric ones, paths others didn't dare take, moves others couldn't justify publicly, risks others were too visible to survive. Machiavelli understood that fear, when properly managed, outlasts love. Not terror, not cruelty, but the quiet understanding that you are not easily swayed. The invisible man is not cold. He is unavailable to manipulation. He doesn't rush to reassure. He doesn't argue to be understood. He doesn't perform morality for applause. He lets outcomes speak. This creates an internal shift most men never experience. When you stop needing approval, your thinking sharpens. Your decisions speed up. Your tolerance for nonsense evaporates. You become dangerous, not emotionally but strategically. And danger commands respect. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be liked, people start taking you seriously. The moment you stop explaining yourself, your words carry weight. The moment you withdraw from validation, you gain influence. But this transition is painful, because in the beginning, silence feels like loss. Distance feels like rejection. Invisibility feels like failure. Most men retreat at this stage. They return to noise, to validation, to being seen, and they stay where they are. In the next part, we're going to confront the most uncomfortable idea yet. Why announcing your goals publicly doesn't just slow you down. It rewires your brain to fail. The moment you tell people your goal, your brain believes the work is already done. This is one of the most dangerous psychological tricks modern culture plays on ambitious men. Public goals feel powerful. They feel motivating. They feel like commitment. But neurologically, they are sabotage. Here's what actually happens when you announce your plans. Your brain cannot tell the difference between achievement and recognition. When people nod, praise, encourage, or react, your nervous system releases reward chemicals as if the outcome already exists. You feel progress without progress. That sensation is lethal. Machiavelli didn't have neuroscience, but he understood human weakness. He knew that men who speak early lose force later, because force requires tension, and tension requires silence. When you keep a goal private, it creates internal pressure. There's no release valve, no applause, no reassurance. That pressure builds discipline. But when you announce it, the pressure escapes. You feel lighter, satisfied, and subconsciously finished. This is why so many men talk about businesses that never launch, projects that never materialize, plans that remain in progress for years. They consume the reward at the announcement stage. Silence would have forced completion. Noise allowed comfort. Motivational culture celebrates accountability partners, public declarations, and social pressure. But Machiavellian strategy understands something colder. The world does not hold you accountable. Reality does. And reality does not care what you said you would do, only what you did. Here's the deeper danger. Once people know your plan, they begin to evaluate it. They measure you against it. They question it. They comment on it. Even when supportive, this creates friction. You begin adjusting your behavior to match expectations. You hesitate when things don't look impressive. You delay action until it can be explained cleanly. This is how men lose momentum. The invisible man has no audience, and without an audience there is no performance, only execution. Machiavelli advised rulers to act, then reveal, never the reverse, because revealed intention invites interference. Competition adapts, enemies prepare, even allies complicate. Silence denies them that advantage. Think about this carefully. Why do the most powerful deals happen behind closed doors? Why do acquisitions, exits, and strategic moves feel sudden? Because they were protected from opinion. The modern man lives under constant observation. Messages, metrics, feedback loops. This creates a fragile identity, one that needs to look consistent instead of becoming effective. Wealth does not grow in public timelines. It grows in private cycles, in isolation, in repetition, in boredom. The invisible man understands this and accepts it early. He doesn't need motivation speeches. He doesn't need to be seen working. He doesn't need validation. He needs completion. And when completion arrives, it doesn't ask permission to exist. In the next part, we'll expose a harsh reality most men avoid, why being traceable keeps you controllable, and how systems quietly profit from your predictability. The system doesn't need to control you, it just needs to track you, and most men make that easy. Traceability is sold as convenience, as safety, as connection. But Machiavellian thinking sees the other side of the equation. What can be tracked can be anticipated. What can be anticipated can be neutralized. This isn't conspiracy, it's structure. Predictable men are manageable men. When your routines are visible, your options shrink. When your opinions are public, your leverage evaporates. When your future plans are known, resistance forms before you even move. Control rarely arrives as force, it arrives as constraint. Employers don't need to threaten you when they understand your dependencies. Markets don't need to block you when they can model you. People don't need to confront you when they already know how you'll react. Machiavelli warned that those who are fully understood lose autonomy, because understanding removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is power's greatest shield. The invisible man introduces friction into the system. He cannot be modeled cleanly. He does not behave on schedule. He does not announce his next step. This makes him expensive to control. Most men unknowingly trade autonomy for comfort. They choose stable routines, public opinions, predictable behavior. It feels safe until it becomes a cage. Motivational culture encourages transparency, but transparency without leverage is exposure. Think about this. Why do institutions encourage you to share your journey? Why do they reward constant updates? Why do they push visibility as virtue? Because visible men self-regulate. They police themselves. They avoid risks that look bad. They stay within acceptable boundaries. Invisible men do not. They can pivot without explanation. They can fail privately. They can rebuild without narrative. This freedom is essential to wealth creation. Machiavelli understood that men are most dangerous when they are underestimated. Visibility prevents underestimation. Invisibility invites it. When people think they understand you, they stop watching closely. They stop anticipating surprises. They relax. That's when leverage shifts. This is not about being antisocial. It's about being unmapped. You don't need to disappear completely. You need to remove unnecessary signals. Not everyone needs access to your schedule. Not everyone deserves insight into your thinking. Not everyone should know your direction. The invisible man controls information the way others chase it. And information asymmetry is the root of power. Here's the uncomfortable realization. The more predictable your life looks, the less room there is for transformation. Radical change requires periods of obscurity, uncertainty, silence. Every meaningful reinvention in history passed through invisibility first. In the next part, we'll talk about the emotional cost of going invisible, the loneliness, the doubt, the internal resistance, and why most men quit right there, even when they're close. Before invisibility gives you power, it takes something from you. And most men aren't prepared for that loss. The hardest part of going invisible is not discipline, it's not patience, it's loneliness. When you stop explaining yourself, people drift. When you stop sharing plans, conversations thin out. When you stop seeking validation, silence grows. At first it feels like you're doing something wrong. Your mind starts whispering doubts. Maybe I should check in. Maybe I should update them. Maybe disappearing was a mistake. This is the withdrawal phase. You are detoxing from approval. Machiavelli understood this psychological cost. He knew that most men abandon strategic silence because they mistake discomfort for danger. But discomfort is not danger. It is transformation. The invisible man sits with uncertainty while others run from it. He resists the urge to be understood. He allows misinterpretation to exist. This builds an internal strength that visibility never can. Here's what happens when you stay silent long enough. Your thinking deepens. Without external feedback, you begin questioning your own assumptions. You refine your ideas instead of defending them. Your confidence shifts from social to internal. You stop needing agreement to move forward. This is a quiet, violent change. Most men never experience it because they return to noise too quickly. Loneliness is not punishment. It's the price of focus, and focus is the raw material of wealth. Machiavelli believed that men are tested most when they are unseen, when no one is watching, when no one is praising. That's when true commitment reveals itself. The invisible man keeps working even when no one knows, especially then. This is why invisibility filters out the weak version of you, the part that needs recognition, the part that performs. What remains is the part that executes. But there's another danger here, a deeper one. Extended silence can turn into hesitation. Isolation can become overthinking. Strategy can turn into paralysis. This is where many men fail. They mistake waiting for preparation. They delay action under the illusion of refinement. True invisibility is active, not passive. You are not hiding. You are building. You are not waiting. You are stacking leverage. And leverage must eventually be deployed. Machiavelli warned that power unused decays. Silence without action becomes fear. The invisible man knows when to endure isolation and when to re-enter with force. In the next part, we'll talk about timing, how to choose the exact moment to reveal your move, and why revealing too early or too late destroys impact. Power is not revealed when you feel ready. It's revealed when resistance can no longer stop it. Timing is the difference between a threat and a fact. Most men get this wrong. They reveal too early because they're impatient, or too late because they're afraid. Both mistakes kill impact. Machiavelli understood that timing is not intuition, it's calculation. You don't move when you want to be seen. You move when being seen changes nothing. The invisible man waits for inevitability. Here's what that means. When you announce something early, people debate it, they question it, they criticize it, they attempt to influence it. Your move becomes negotiable. But when you reveal only after momentum is irreversible, discussion ends. There's nothing left to argue about. This is why powerful outcomes feel shocking. They skip the argument phase. Most men crave recognition during the struggle. They want credit while things are uncertain, but uncertainty is fragile. Machiavellian strategy delays exposure until uncertainty collapses into reality. Think about it. A deal is not announced during negotiation. A war is not declared during planning. A takeover is not revealed during accumulation. Visibility comes after control is established. The invisible man knows he has won before anyone else knows he has played. This requires emotional discipline most men don't have. It means absorbing doubt privately, handling setbacks silently, letting others underestimate you. Underestimation is not insult, it is camouflage. The visible man corrects every misunderstanding. The invisible man lets them stack, because the lower expectations are, the higher the shock. Machiavelli wrote that surprise multiplies force. A predictable strike is absorbed. An unexpected one reshapes the field. Timing is not about speed. It's about readiness of consequence. Ask yourself this: if you revealed your plan today, could anyone stop it? If the answer is yes, you are not ready. You're still vulnerable. The invisible man waits until interference becomes impossible or irrelevant. This patience feels agonizing. You watch others talk, post, claim progress. You remain silent, and silence can feel like falling behind. But it's the opposite. While others trade attention, you're trading position, and position compounds quietly. Here's another hard truth. Revealing too late also weakens power. Some men hide forever. They refine endlessly. They wait for perfect conditions. Perfection never arrives. Machiavelli warned that opportunity favors decisiveness. Silence is a tool, not a home. The invisible man emerges decisively, not cautiously. When he appears, it's not tentative. It's final. No explanation, no build-up, no justification, just outcome. That's the moment people call him lucky. Overnight success, unexpected, but nothing about it was sudden. It was silent. In the next part, we're going to pull all of this together: invisibility, discipline, timing, and leverage, and show how this strategy translates into real wealth creation, not theory. Invisibility is not philosophy. It is an operating system. Up to now, this may have sounded abstract, strategic, psychological. Now we make it real, because wealth is not created by ideas alone. It is created by execution under protection. Here is how invisibility translates directly into money. The visible man builds in public. Every mistake is documented. Every failure is remembered. Every pivot is questioned. That history follows him. Investors hesitate. Partners doubt. Competitors study. The invisible man builds in private. Mistakes vanish into silence. Failures become lessons, not labels. Pivots happen without explanation. Only the finished result enters the world. This difference alone compounds into millions. Machiavelli understood reputation deeply. He knew that perception lags reality, and the wise man controls when perception is allowed to update. The invisible man chooses when the world gets the new version of him. That means he can outgrow his past without permission. This is why some men seem to skip levels. They didn't skip anything. They just weren't watched while climbing. Here's another reality most people miss. Money moves towards certainty, not hype, not promises, not visibility, certainty. And certainty is strongest when results arrive fully formed. Think about products that dominate markets. They don't leak every feature. They don't debate ideas publicly. They appear complete. That confidence attracts capital. The same applies to individuals. The invisible man doesn't sell potential. He presents outcomes, and outcomes silence negotiation. This changes how people treat you. You're no longer asked, "What are you planning?" You're asked, "How did you do it?" That shift is power. Wealth multiplies when leverage replaces labor, and leverage is built quietly. Networks form without announcements. Skills compound without performance. Capital accumulates without noise. The visible man is always explaining. The invisible man is always positioning. One burns energy convincing. The other conserves energy compounding. Motivational culture celebrates grind, but Machiavellian strategy celebrates advantage. Grinding publicly makes you inspirational. Grinding privately makes you unstoppable. Here's the most important realization of all. Invisibility is temporary. It is a phase, a deliberate one. You disappear to build strength. You reappear to deploy it. Men who stay visible never build enough force to matter. Men who disappear forever never collect returns. The balance is everything. Invisibility is the forge. Visibility is the stage. Confuse the order and you fail. Get it right, and results arrive faster than anyone expects. In the final part, we're going to deliver the last twist, the one most men resist. Why true wealth eventually requires you to be seen again, but only on your terms. The goal was never to stay invisible forever. The goal was to choose when you were seen. This is where most men misunderstand the entire strategy. They think invisibility is the destination. It's not. It's the preparation. Machiavelli never advised permanent darkness. He advised controlled exposure. True power is not hiding. It is appearing only when appearance benefits you. The invisible man eventually returns, but not as a participant. He returns as a factor. By the time he is seen again, the game has already changed. This is why wealth often looks unfair, because by the time people notice, the leverage has already been secured. Think carefully about this final shift. When you reappear with results, your past silence is reinterpreted as mystery. Your distance becomes authority. Your restraint becomes discipline. People project power onto what they could not observe, and projection is influence. At this stage, visibility no longer weakens you. It amplifies you, because now being seen does not invite interference. It invites alignment. Opportunities come to you. Negotiations tilt in your favor. People listen before you speak. This is why Machiavelli warned against being accessible too early, but not against being visible at the right moment. The world respects outcomes, not intentions. This is the final motivational truth. You cannot build wealth while needing permission, and permission is always required by those who are visible too soon. Disappear when you are weak. Reappear when you are inevitable. That is the strategy. Silence is not cowardice. It is discipline. Distance is not arrogance. It is focus. And invisibility is not absence. It is leverage in incubation. If you remember one thing from this entire video, let it be this: the man who can be found can be managed. The man who cannot be found must be respected. Build quietly, move deliberately, reveal decisively. That is how wealth is actually made. Not loudly, not publicly, not predictably, but precisely.